Hey guys, we're back, and it's been a while since I've been at the old desk, but I wanted to hop on here real quick since it's been crazy trying to find time to make a video and just do a nice little spoiler-free review. And this time we are talking about Sean Baker's new film, Anora. So I got to see Anora in theaters, which was awesome. I was really excited for that. And because of this, I hadn't seen any of Sean Baker's films before I saw like the hype build for this. And I tracked down Tangerine, Florida Project, and Red Rocket. His three most recent films, I believe. I think he has two or three ones before those, but I know that he's mainly gotten a lot of like commercial and critical acclaim within the last three or so films. So I was very excited. I went and saw this with my brother and my girlfriend. We had a great time, but it's a very interesting film, and there's a couple things that I want to talk about with it, especially in the context of having just seen Sean Baker's previous films before these. So first off, it's a really fun film, and I mean, you could tell that going into it. Mikey Madison is amazing in this, and really the whole cast. I mean, the side characters were surprisingly funny, and really this entire thing was far funnier than I was imagining going into it. Of course, Red Rocket is a comedy, pretty directly, but Tangerine and the Florida Project, I mean, Tangerine's a comedy too, but the Florida Project, not really, and Tangerine's not like this kind of comedy, so it's very interesting to see him go this far with what I would call, honestly, screwball comedy. This is probably more evocative of like a Peter Bogdanovich movie than anything else I've seen in a long time. Like, most of the plot of the movie is antics that you'd see straight out of What's Up, Doc? And for me, that's a really good thing. I love screwball comedies. It's one of my favorite kinds of comedy, and they hardly ever get made anymore. So this was a blast. It was constant laughs throughout from the entire theater, even though there was only like a handful of other people in the theater with us, which I think is a good sign that this is genuinely funny and the performances work. That being said, when you get through all of this, the ending and what it's going for, I'm going to be spoiler free, so I'm not going to say specifically how it ends, but the way it handles all of the more serious subject matter, because this continues Sean Baker's conversation around sex workers and humanity and like certain sides of American underbelly, I guess. Kind of dejects from American society. That's what he's tapped into really well. And he usually brings a lot of humanity with some really unique messages that can come off as super heartbreaking in something like Florida Project, or just really nuanced and fun in something like Tangerine, or something really disgusting like at Red Rocket, but it's still a blast. So this is kind of the nuance and the style that I'm expecting from Baker. And this time around, I'm not sure he really stuck the landing with actually talking about the more serious subject matters that Anora brings up by the end of the film, especially when it makes a lot of jokes and stuff about rape, which is really weird. It just plays weird for the character of Anora, because Anora, despite being such an electric performance, is hardly the main character of the story. We don't really get to know much about her or her motivations outside of the individual actions within the story, which all focus around the marriage, which kind of course, kicks off the whole plot. This makes it so we don't really get a good sense of why Anora has gone down the path that she has, what she wants out of life, why she even wants to get married so bad, other than just the fact that there's money. And really, man, that final scene and the way that they play out a lot of the serious and somber moments at the end feel a little rushed, just because we don't really know Anora that well. And I think this also partially has to do, and I believe it was Taylor J. Williams who brought this up in his video, so go check that out. But previously in a lot of Baker's films, he's casted people who are relatively unknown actors who usually work in the actual sphere that he's talking about, or at least have some connection. For Tangerine, this was the case. For Florida Project, this was the case. And even for Red Rocket, this was the case. These people are practically in the sphere of what the movies are actually talking about. Anora is the first movie from him to really have like a quote-unquote big Hollywood cast, with Mikey Madison not really, of course, fitting in with either the location or the job that Anora has within the film. And this, paired with the lack of focus on her, really seems to stylistically move away from a lot of what makes Baker's films so effective a lot of times. It feels like the style and the kind of screwball comedy elements with a star like Mikey Madison, which, I mean, she really is a star in this movie, play against tapping into any kind of humanity within Anora, and make her often feel a lot more animated and caricature-esque than I would expect to see from Baker, which makes the entire thing's relation with sex work come off as a lot more disingenuous and a lot more just flashy, which I think is an unfortunate direction to see Baker's career go, because I think that's something he does incredibly well and nuanced in Tangerine and Florida Project. This was actually one of my qualms with Red Rocket. As he leans more comedic, I think he ends up stepping on the toes of some of his own messaging, though Red Rocket makes it work by being a little bit more fantastical in how it approaches its story. This seems to be a very down-to-earth story, but you just never actually get down to any of the characters. Anyway, that's my big qualm with the movie, and again, that doesn't really spoil anything, but this still was an absolute blast for me. One of my favorites of the year, and this issue didn't really take away a lot from my overall enjoyment of the film. I mean, the performances, the jokes, there's some all-time scenes in this, and I would turn this movie on anytime. Even the emotional stuff that is there works relatively effectively enough with the actual filmmaking, like the nuts and bolts of like shots, composition, editing, score, and of course the really strong performances, that it definitely got a strong emotional reaction out of me and left a lot to be chewed on and to talk about, which I think is good for a film like this. But all in all, I would for sure recommend this if you're okay with the content in it. It is hilarious, it's a really fun time, and it also gets an interesting ball rolling in terms of the topics of like trauma and consent and things like these, especially within sex work, and what it actually means to want to succeed in that sphere. It's very interesting. It's not perfect. I would give it a solid 4.5 out of 5 because it's still just, it's brilliant. It captures so much great energy that I can't help but love what it's doing. The performances, the comedy, it's great. Wish it was a little bit better, and unfortunately I don't see it as a good path forward for Sean Baker's career, but he is a competent enough filmmaker that it still all works. It's still very cohesive. So I'm hoping we see a little bit more of the humanity and the actual nuance around sex work come through in his next film. If he decides to talk about this subject again, maybe he'll move on from it. I don't know. But as somebody who cares about the nuanced conversations around sex work, I think it's very important, especially to talk about in movies and media, because that really helps how public perception around sex workers is and can lead to a lot of people either treating them horribly or seeing them as human beings, which they are. So to see a movie like this that plays a little bit more fast and loose with everything and can sometimes make Anora feel like the butt of the joke for doing what she does, it's not my favorite thing to see from Baker. But I still have a lot of love for him overall for what he's trying to do with his movies, and I would definitely recommend this. Sorry if I'm being really rambly, it's been a while since I've done this. But yeah, check it out, comment, let me know what you thought of Anora, maybe some other Baker films, or even some other films about sex workers. I would love to hear it, or even some other screwball comedies. Literally give me recommendations, I will check them out. I'm working on a new ranking video, I don't know when it's going to be out, of course. this month's been super busy. I went on vacation. That was a blast. Thanksgiving is coming up. I don't know when I'm going to put this video out, but hopefully I'll get that out sometime soon. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you for all the support. Please consider giving us a like and a subscribe. I said us like there's more than one of me. But I will see you guys next time. I need to get some sleep. I love you all. Goodbye.